You've never missed a deadline you didn't secretly give yourself. Think about it. A task you kept postponing for 3 hours suddenly gets finished in just 20 minutes when the deadline is staring at you. The work didn't change. Your brain finally believed it was time to act. This is called Parkinson's Law. Work expands to fill the time you give it. So stop asking, how long will this take? Instead ask, what's the shortest deadline I can realistically survive? Your deadline shapes your productivity more than your motivation ever will.
Imagine this. Your assignment is due next Monday. On Monday, you tell yourself, I've got plenty of time. Tuesday, you scroll for a while. Wednesday, you promise you'll start tomorrow. Thursday turns into Friday. By Saturday, the guilt kicks in. You keep thinking about the assignment, but you still don't start. It follows you all weekend, stealing your peace. Even while you're watching videos or talking to friends, it's sitting in the back of your mind.
Then, Sunday night arrives. The deadline is only a few hours away. Your heart races. Coffee, no distractions, no overthinking. You write, edit, and somehow finish the entire assignment before sunrise. Now, imagine the same assignment was given with only 1 hour to complete. You wouldn't spend 6 days worrying. You'd simply sit down, focus, and get it done. The assignment didn't become easier. The time you gave it changed how you worked. So, what's happening here? It's called Parkinson's Law. In 1955, British historian Cyril Northcote Parkinson made a simple observation. Work expands to fill the time available for its completion. In other words, if you give yourself a week to finish something that only needs 1 day, your brain will somehow find a way to stretch that work across the entire week.
Not because you're lazy, because your brain adapts to the time you give it. The extra time gets filled with overthinking, unnecessary planning, checking your phone, making tiny edits, and convincing yourself you're getting ready to start. Decades later, this principle still shows up everywhere, from students and office workers to entrepreneurs and even billion-dollar companies. The lesson is simple. Your productivity isn't controlled by the size of the task. It's controlled by the size of the deadline.
Why does this happen? Why can the exact same person struggle to start a task for 6 days, yet suddenly become unbelievably productive in the final hour? The answer isn't motivation. It's how your brain manages attention. Your brain doesn't actually measure the size of a task. It measures something far more important: the amount of time available. Think of your brain like a company with a limited budget. If you give it 1 hour, it spends that budget carefully. Every minute matters. Your attention narrows. Decisions become faster. You ignore distractions because they suddenly feel expensive. But when you give yourself an entire week, your brain behaves very differently. It thinks, there's no rush. So instead of focusing on execution, it starts exploring. Maybe I should research a little more. I'll organize my notes first. I'll clean my desk before I begin. Let me check one notification. I'll start after lunch. None of these decisions feel harmful by themselves. In fact, each one feels reasonable. But together, they quietly steal hours, then days. This isn't because you're weak. It's because your brain is built to conserve mental energy whenever it believes immediate action isn't necessary. Psychologists call this temporal discounting. Our brains naturally place more value on what's urgent now than on what's important later. A deadline transforms a future consequence into a present one. That's why everything suddenly feels clearer when only an hour remains. There's another reason. As the deadline gets closer, your brain releases more stress-related chemicals like adrenaline and norepinephrine. These increase alertness, sharpen attention, and help you ignore distractions. For many people, the pressure also makes the task feel more immediately rewarding, which can increase motivation through the brain's dopamine system. Notice something important. The deadline didn't make you smarter. It didn't give you new skills. It simply activated a level of focus that was already inside you. This is why you can spend 4 hours trying to work and then produce your best work in 40 focused minutes. The problem was never your ability. The problem was that your brain never received a strong enough signal that now was the time to focus. And once that signal finally arrived, everything changed. But here's the dangerous part. Parkinson's Law doesn't just affect your assignments or office work. It quietly starts shaping your entire life. Think about that workout you've been planning. You said you'd start next Monday, then next month, then after the holidays. The workout itself only takes 30 minutes, but months disappear because there was never a real deadline. Think about the job application you've been meaning to submit. You keep improving your resume, watching interview videos, researching companies, waiting until you feel ready. Weeks pass, and you still haven't clicked apply. Or maybe it's that YouTube channel, that business idea, that book you've wanted to write. You've spent more time planning than creating. Not because the work is impossible, but because your brain never believed it had to begin today. And that's how dreams quietly die. Not from failure, not from a lack of talent, but from endless time. The scary part isn't wasting one afternoon. It's waking up a year later and realizing you've been preparing for a life you never actually started. Parkinson's Law isn't stealing your hours. It's stealing your momentum. And once momentum disappears, so do opportunities. So how do you use Parkinson's Law to your advantage? The goal isn't to work under constant panic. The goal is to create controlled urgency before real panic ever arrives. Let's use a simple example. Imagine you want to make a YouTube video. Normally, you'd tell yourself, I'll finish it by Sunday. 7 days. Sounds comfortable. But that's exactly the problem. Instead, pretend Sunday doesn't exist. Set your personal deadline for Thursday evening. Immediately, the project becomes smaller in your mind. Next, don't just remember the deadline, make it impossible to ignore. Open a countdown timer on your phone or laptop. Not a calendar reminder, a timer that keeps showing you exactly how much time is left. Your brain responds far better to a clock that's ticking than to a date that's far away. Now break the project into checkpoints. By 10 a.m., the script is finished. By 2 p.m., filming is complete. By 5 p.m., editing is done. By 7 p.m., the thumbnail is ready. Notice what's happening. You're no longer trying to finish one giant project. You're simply trying to hit the next checkpoint. Finally, tell someone. Message a friend, tell your audience, or even write it on social media. My new video goes live on Thursday at 7 p.m. The moment another person expects it, your deadline stops being imaginary. It becomes real. These 4 steps, shorter deadlines, a visible countdown, smaller checkpoints, and public commitment, work together to create the same focus that normally appears only at the last minute. The difference is, now you're using that focus days earlier, when you still have time to produce your best work instead of rushing just to finish. Let's go back to that student from the beginning, the one who spent 6 days avoiding the assignment and finished it in one exhausting night. Now imagine they discover Parkinson's Law. The next assignment is still due on Monday, but this time they create their own deadline, Thursday. They finish the first draft that evening. Friday, they make a few improvements. Saturday and Sunday are no longer filled with guilt, anxiety, or sleepless nights. They're free. The assignment gets submitted on Monday, but the stress never had to arrive. That's the real lesson. Productive people aren't always more disciplined. They're often just better at controlling time before time controls them. Because the moment you stop giving every task unlimited time, you stop letting your life quietly disappear into, I'll do it tomorrow. Most people will hear this, nod, and go back to giving themselves unlimited time. Because deadlines feel like punishment. They never realize they're actually a source of freedom. But if you're one of the few who's willing to test this, I think you're going to like what comes next.